Testing. Can y'all hear me? Can y'all hear me out there? Give me a thumbs up. A TU, which means yes. Nin, which means no. If you can't hear me, is my volume okay? Okay. I always have to get my volume straight. Peace. Peace and blessings. Senate Sophie. Senate just means sister. Peace, Roy. And I'm gonna get started in a minute. Just trying to get everybody, get a couple of more folks in here. And I'm gonna share the videos real quick. And Sophie, you don't mind, share the video on your other page for me if you don't mind. Okay. Let me share it with a few other people. Hey. Okay. Appreciate that, Senate Sophie. I just seen it come through. Share mine to a few sites and to send them to a few people. All right. Y'all just give me a second, please. I'm still trying to share the links to just a few people pages. In just a second. I guess that's all I'm gonna share it to. Anybody else want to come in can come in later on if you like. I got too many friends, y'all. I'm not gonna keep flipping through here. But anyway, I done shared it to a few groups. If anybody else want to come in, they can come in. I'm gonna go ahead and get started. Before I get started, I'd like to say ETM Hotep, Uncle Jaws and Neb, Dua Aku, Ren E Kofi Paisai. I've just basically said peace, family, life, health, and prosperity. May you be given life, health, and prosperity. Thanks to the ancestors, or praise the ancestor, and my name is Kofi Paisai. And again, Dua to Aku, which means I thank the ancestor or praise the ancestors. Because again, we wouldn't be here without the ancestors. So I always have to give respect to the ancestors. Now let me enlarge in this. Hold on. All right. Can y'all see that better? Peace, Sinet, Emmy Aku, peace, Tasha, peace, Val, if you're on here, still on here. I'd just like to speak to those that come in. Peace, Queen, Masha, if I hope I'm saying your name right. All right. Now today, my PowerPoint today is called African Rites of Passage Presentation. This is a African Rites presentation, and I think that this is an important PowerPoint to do today. And the reason why I say it's important PowerPoint to do today, it's a lot of confusion and it's a lot of chaos going on in our community, for as our women, for as our children, and for as the man's. And at one time we was groomed as an early age, as birth, all the way up to adulthood, etc., eldership, and so forth. I'm gonna go into that. And I think when I'll give it all in a summary once I get through. Okay, I always have to give a disclaimer. My disclaimer: I am not a teacher, but merely a student sharing information. I'm gonna say this again. I am not a teacher, but merely a student sharing information. And that information provided is for educational purpose only. It is you. If you are in doubt, do the research or have it verified by someone qualified. I reserve the rights to change the focus of this presentation to shut down, sell, or change the terms of the use at my own discretion. All trademarks, designs, rights, copyrights, residents' names, mottos, logos, avatars, the sigmas, and marks used or cited by this website or the property of this respective owner. I reserve the rights to add information as it comes available and or adapt changes, approving information as it comes available in the future. Inputs wanted. Again, inputs wanted. Changes, additions, deletions encouraged. All right. Give me a second, but I always have to read my disclaimer before I get started. Slide. Okay. Now, before I start going into the PowerPoint, I want to show a video. I want to show a video by Barbara Smalls. And let's see what it load up before I get started. I know it's gonna probably, let's see if it's gonna act right the first. I knew it wasn't gonna act right the first time. Come on and play. All right. Now I'm gonna play this video before I get started with the PowerPoint. This is Barbara Jane Small, Professor Jane Smalls. I prefer to call him Barbara Jane Smalls instead of Professor Jane Smalls. And I had never met this man, but I love this man, and I hope one day that I'm able to see this elder before he passes and go into the becomes an ancestor and goes into the Agungun. So I'm just going to play a few parts of this video just to set up my PowerPoint before I start going into the PowerPoint. Hotep, seeing Sean. Peace, Alex. Hey, Sister Delia, peace to you.
So, in the African system, what system, what other systems are there out? What systems are there out there that you know of?
Right, and in Yoruba, Akan, and most of the systems in Africa, they deal with a primary five. The rites when birth, when you come to birth, and the rites when you reach puberty, when you're being prepared for adulthood, the rites of adulthood, once you that's between the 20s and about 50, and then and somewhere then both deal with the body, and then the eldership, which is between 60 and 75, and the last is the preparation for ancestorship. So those are the primary five. But in between, you have secondaries. So when you're talking about the puberty, where you're being prepared for adulthood, there is that entry into the community of adulthood. But when you get 30, you're being prepared to take responsible senior positions as an adult. And when you're in your 50s, you're being prepared to take the junior elder role. So that when you reach eldership,
Sophie, you say you're having trouble. Can y'all hear the video? Can y'all see and hear the video? Let me know. If not, I'll stop it and then start it over again. Can y'all hear the video and see it? Thumbs up, yes. No.
Where you begin to listen to the elders in the community on what messages you're supposed to take home to the ancestors about the condition of their children, and let them know what our efforts are or what our needs are, and to make a major request on who they should send back. What type of person needs to come back to handle the problems we're facing?
Oh, so because you're here, you can give them the update information on what's needed.
That's right. And all African systems have a what do you call it? The word when you go and you come. Reincarnation.
Okay.
And in all the systems I know, I don't know all of them, but the urban so forth.
I didn't want to play the whole video, but I hope y'all heard what Baba Smalls was talking about. He's basically talking about I wanted him to set my presentation up. It's basically I'm talking about our ancestors, African rites of passages, stages of life that we go to. And he talks about in the video, he talks about the rites of passages that we had. The rites of passages as the rites of passage or the rites of birth, also with the birthing of the names, the rites of passage dealing with adulthood, a woman coming into adulthood, man coming into adulthood, circumcision, which is some African traditions practice that rite, some don't practice that rite, but rites of circumcision, which is one of the oldest ceremonies ever. Judaism, before you get a Christianity, before you get of Islam. I'm going to show you one of the oldest reliefs to bag up what I'm saying a little bit as circumcision. Circumcision did not come from the Israelites. Circumcision, this was not an invention that was started when the Bible or was so-called copulated, but I'm going to show that a little bit later in the slides. But also the rites of marriage, the rites of marriage, the rites of eldership, the rites of ancestor / death. So this here slide says the African initiation rites, which are the fundamentals to human growth and development. These rites, birth, adulthood, circumcision, marriage, eldership, ancestor / death, were originally established by our ancestors while they were living in order to link the individuals to the community. The rites of passage plays a central role in Africa's socialization, demarking the different stages in the individual development, genders and otherwise, as well as the person relationship and role to the broader community. Now I'm going to show in the rest of the slides the common rites of the passages in Africa and how different groups celebrate them. So I'm going to be Hotep Senate, Lisa. Oh, peace to you, bro Ray. So I'm going to show a bunch of different, because all African traditions practice this rites of passage ceremonies, and I'm going to show you different varieties from different tribes, and even what I practice for this Ifa by the Yoruba people in southwestern Nigeria and central and western Benin, as well as North Africa spiritual systems dealing with the remix of the Kemetu culture. birth and childhood. This is the rite. The rite of the birth is the first major rite. Nearly all African cultures believe the infant has come from the spiritual world with important information from that world and is bringing unique talents and gifts. Indeed, a unique purpose, missing messages, and projects of offering to the community, and thus reasons for celebration. I know y'all kind of heard this before. For those that watch my PowerPoint presentation on the introduction of Yoruba, my part two PowerPoint that I did, where I talked about the Ori, I talked about the Orisha, the meaning of the Orisha, went into the Orishas, and went into some of the colors of the Orishas and things that you can sacrifice to the Orishas. And I talked about the Ori, and the Ori being the Orisha being the select head, and talked about how we was at the feet of Olimari or Odimari. This is an African story, or Odu, where we're sitting at the feet of Oliran or Odimari, which is one and the same. And doing that, we select our head, our Ori, which is our essential self, which is our spirit. And we know that the spirit, that's why most people you'll hear me say that God dwells within us, which he dwells within, he, she, or it dwells within us. That supreme force that dwells within us. That spirit dwells within all of us. So we select our essential self. We select a part of him, he, or she. We select that Ori, that spirit. Once we select that spirit, also as we select that spirit, we select our gifts, we select our purpose, we select our destiny, we select our parents, we select the time that we are born and the day that we die. We select our traumas, we select our child wounds, and etc. These are the things that are told that are being passed down. So some of what I'm saying here may sound familiar with you if you looked at my PowerPoint part two of the introduction of Yoruba, dealing with the Ori and the Orisha. Therefore, the rites of birth is the first of the major rites and involving initiation the infant into the world through rituals and naming ceremonies. It is the responsibility of the family to communicate, to discover through consultation with elders and a diviner to determine this mission. Now here most when a woman goes through childbirth. Now, when it goes through childbirth, they have a ritual. A ritual is done for the child being birthed, which we'll talk about a few days after the child has been here. The child hasn't been named yet. And most of you that deals with Yoruba, that deals with Hotep, Sin, Empu, Ma'at, Ra, that deals with Ifa, or may deal with the traditions from the Akan, or the tradition from the Fon people that's dealing with Voodoo and etc. You can see that they deal with the divination. So they do a divination on the child before the child is when the child is born. So the divination is done by the elder in the community, or in Yoruba, the Babaluau. So the divination is done, and this divination determines what the destiny of this child is going to be. So the naming of the child is going to be selected by what the Babaluau says that the destiny of the child is going to be. So when the child's name is always called, he's going to always understand that his name is tied to his destiny. So through life, he's going to fulfill his destiny. He's going to fulfill, or she's going to fulfill her purpose, because her purpose and her destiny is tied into her name. And this is why you see in Africa, where all of the names mean something. All of them here, we name our kids certain things. It doesn't mean nothing. But if you talk to people that's on the motherland that has name, their name means something. They'll tell you exactly, my name means such and such, and they'll tell you exactly what their name means, and their name tied to their destiny, et cetera, et cetera. This can be accomplished through rituals, birth charts, etc. It is important to clearly determine the new community member's missions in order to successfully guide him/her along the life path. Naming of an infant is seen as an important part of birthing rites, as it is believed the name has a spiritual vibration which affects the person as an infant to adult life and beyond. The Nabian, which is in South Africa, country in South Africa, the Hebian people never leave their newborn child on its own or ever put him or her down for fear that it may be stolen by some malicious spirits. This here is a Hebian a woman right here kissing her child. Let me see something. Hold on. I hope I didn't skip anything. If I did, it doesn't matter, because I kind of went through the birthing of names. Well, let's go back to the birthing of names. Before I go into the third, I mentioned birthing. I mentioned the rites of birth, the rites of birth, and the birthing of the names. Now, in certain traditions, like far as the Akan people in Ghana, far as the Yoruba people in Nigeria, for the Fan people in Benin, also the Marrige of the Kimatu, the ancestors from Kemet, North Africa, they name their child, as I stated earlier. The child does not get a name after the child goes through a divination system. So once the child goes through a divination system or a birth chart, and then his name is selected, or her name is selected. And again, her name or his name is tied to his destiny and his purpose. So every time she name is called, then she knows what her purpose is. And she's also, or he also is going to be groomed by going through these other different rites of passages or these other stages of life. And the Akan, the Yoruba, and the people in Benin, I know far as the Yoruba and the Akan, Bryson, calm down, son. The naming process starts 8 days after the child is born, and the Akan and the people of Yoruba. And in other traditions, you have the naming process start 3 days after the child is born, and you have in other traditions where the naming process is 7 days after the child is after the child has been born. The rites of adulthood. The rites of adulthood is the second major initiation rite, and it is nowadays the most popular among the sets of rites. Most people today assume that rites of passage only refers to initiations into adulthood, and they are often not aware that adulthood rites are only one set of rites within a larger system of rites. And Baba Karada, but Baba James Smalls, in the video, he talks about that. He talks about he went through the stages, the rites of passage stages of the stages of life. Then he went back to the rites of adulthood. In the rites of adulthood, most of the traditions, they start at the age, you become an adult at the age of 12 to 13 in African cultures, or in African culture. So you become an adult at an early age in all African cultures. But then there are different stages. You become adult. Then at the age of 30, you may become a senior, you may become a senior adult at the age of 30. Then I think at the age of 50, you become, I forgot what the other adult is called. And then you will go into the branch of, then you will go into the stage of the elder, where you'll be the advisor, of the advisor for the community. And adult rites are usually done at one site, puberty age around 12 to 13 years of age in many cultures, and they are ensure the shaping and the product community-oriented, responsible adults. There is nothing automatic about youth being productive members in society, nor is there anything particularly difficult about transitioning from a child to an adult. Now, children are taught the necessary skills for adulthood, including, among other things, problem solving, rules and taboos of the society, social responsibilities, what is considered appropriate behavior for women, and men can receive further clarifications of his or her purpose in life. Often success completions of the rites in adulthood publicly celebrated within a common ceremony or reintroducing to society. So doing your rites of adulthood, you go through the woman, the child is separated from the society, and certain cultures, certain African cultures, they're varied days. Some a week, some 2 weeks, some a little bit longer. The male, the boys or the men as well, as they go through their rites of passage ceremony, and through their being separated from the society, and they are going through their rites of passages, they are taught problem solving. They are taught rules and taboos to the society. They are taught social responsibilities. And again, at the age of 12 to 13, you are becoming an adulthood at an early age. So they are teaching you how to become an adult at an early age. So they are teaching you all these things when they remove you from the society. They're also teaching you behavior for a woman, because we know that we are not teaching our babies proper behavior. We have our little girls wearing at the age of 6 and 7, got tights on, got skinny jeans on, Daisy Dukes on, they wearing lipstick, you know, this here is teaching the women or your children how to behave appropriate as a woman, and the man is receive further clarifications of his or her own purpose and his life mission. He are also being taught what a man is, just like a woman is being taught what a woman is. So there's no confusion when we go through these rites of passage. A woman knows she's supposed to be with a man, and a man knows he's supposed to be with a woman as well. So these are things that we must set back in our communities, rites of passage, because these things that we're the things that we're not implementing that our ancestors left behind, is destroying us. Now I want to show a video, and then I'm gonna go into some of the things of some more in a minute. But I want to show you just a little small video of some other things that's dealing with the rites of passage. Like I just said, they separated the men of the boys as they going through their adult rites of passages, and they're teaching them certain things outside of the community, and then the women are out. They're extracting the women outside of the community, and they're teaching the women certain things. They're teaching women how to be women. They're teaching men how to be men. They're teaching men responsibility. They're teaching the man how to treat a woman as well as the woman treat a man. They're teaching them social skills. They're teaching them proper behavior. They're teaching you skills of survival. They're teaching you courage. They're teaching you all these different things through the rites of passages. But I want to show you something else just a little different also that they also do far as other different African traditions. It's gonna play in a minute, saying it's the video, but hotel to you, saying Kevin. Peace, Reggie Humphrey. Hotel, I'm in my Ra. Video sometimes don't want to play. Hold on. Let's see. Bear with me just a second, family. Right, son, stop bouncing the ball. Now, I ain't have no problem playing the first video. Now this video don't want to play, and it's just a 2-minute video that I wanted to show. Let's see. Hold on. Hold on, family. Let me go back into it again because I just want to play that little short video. Appreciate it, Sinette. All right. Now that was the other video that I played the Bible. All right, let's see what it play now for me. Yeah, it's gonna play now. All right, here you go. Now it's just a little 2-minute video, just showing you about another tribe and what the girl has to do. Some things she had to do through her rites of passage, and what a young boy had to do through rites of passage.
The Fulani tribespeople, known for their nomadic ways and for some of the world's more painful rites of passage. In a remote region of northern Benin, West Africa, Bapate prepares for his initiation ritual with the help of his older brother. Clans will gather from 50 miles around to see if he is braver than his opponent in a violent whipping match.
If I lose, I will be shamed. Because everyone from all
Coach
of the different
Monica.
clans will be watching.
Peace, Tabitha.
Back at the village, the boys enlist their father's aid in choosing a branch that will inflict the most painful blow. Their father sharpens the stick so it will break the opponent's skin. Finally, it's time to head off to battle. Bapate is excited, in spite of the bloody test that awaits him. Meanwhile, a young Fulani woman is undergoing her own rite of passage into adulthood. Today, Marrige will receive a full set of traditional facial tattoos and become a woman. Marrige's tattoos will be done by a local artist, Gokure. He readies the needles he will use to make thousands of tiny pricks in Marrige's face. The hours-long ritual will test the girl's bravery. If she cries or shows pain, then she will be shamed, and the tattooing may be delayed until she is older. Before inscribing the painful tattoo, Gokure paints elaborate designs. Each carries a special meaning for the Fulani. Eyes on her temples will allow Marrige to keep watch on her husband at all times. Cow tracks symbolize prosperity.
The beginning is the most painful.
Blood begins to mix with the ink, but the artist continues. After more than 3 hours, the work is complete. According to Fulani tradition, Marrige is now a beautiful woman ready to consider marriage. Marrige has finished her initiation rite, but the Bapate is about to face his own test. Bapate learns that his opponent will be a boy named Mati from a neighboring clan. First, Bapate will whip Mati 3 times, and then he will have to endure the same. Whoever hits the other the hardest and flinches the least when hit himself will be declared the winner. The crowd will determine who is bravest. It is an impressive performance. Mati's clan celebrates his bravery by showering him with white talc powder and placing coins on his forehead as a congratulatory gesture. Now it is the Pati's turn to be beaten. The crowd roars. He barely flinched when struck by his opponent's weaker blows, and he's won the match. Though Bapati's skin is broken, his spirit is not.
It is burning me. It really hurts. But I am full of joy. I am very proud because I have won.
Bapati has endured a painful ordeal and become an adult member of the Fulani tribe.
Okay, I wanted to just show that little video because, I mean, as I go, let me go back to this slide. Hold on, wait. I don't know why I went all the way out of it. Hold on one second. Okay. With this slide here, I talked about how they separated the men and separated the women from society, and they taught problem solving, they taught rules, they taught taboo to the society, they taught the social responsibilities. They also taught appropriate behavior, that women are taught appropriate behavior, and the men are also taught to receive further clarifications of his purpose and life mission. And also they are taught with this sort of rites of passage that I just showed, the boy becoming an adult and a woman becoming an adult, is actually showing them bravery, showing them, teaching them courage and teaching them bravery. So also with those other skills, they also teach them how to be brave and how to be courageous or courage. Now, hold on. Circumcision. Now, this is the rite of circumcision. Various forms of surgery and ritual operation known as circumcisions are performed on human sex organs throughout the world. In Africa, it is an old practice. Now, I was breaking down earlier, I was talking about circumcision. Now, circumcision is one of the oldest initiations, one of the oldest ceremonies on the planet. Now, it is older, as I said a while ago, it is older than Israelite culture. It is older than a Judaic culture. It is older than Christianity. It is older than Jesus Christ. It is older than Islam. It is older than the Prophet Muhammad. This ceremony is older than that. It is older. We think this form of circumcision comes from one set of group of people that exists in a certain book that we call the Bible. So this is an old African ceremony that has been going on through time immemorial before all these other cultures and all these other different spectrums of religions jumped on the scene. As a child grew up, he or she to be initiated into adulthood through a circumcision ritual. Now, we just said, now we always think about circumcision. We know the circumcision, they're taking the foreskins off of the male's phallus. We know that this thing is still going on today. But we never talk about the circumcision of a woman. In African cultures, certain cultures and certain tribes, certain clans, the woman has a circumcision, has to be circumcised as well. So, and a lot of us don't know, okay, but what are circumcised? Well, so what do the woman get circumcised? And I'm gonna go into that in a minute. In the past, many African communities practice female circumcision, which has since been criminalized in many countries across the continent. Although some tribes still practice it, many have adopted new practices that are less harmful to girls. For boys, circumcision is almost anonymous across the continent, although different communities celebrate these rites of passages differently. And it's involving the removal of foreskin, as I was saying, from the boy's penis, and it's often done by village elders who is who is used as a ritual, used in the ritual as an opportunity to pass down key traditions to the younger generation. This is just a group of Ugandans from Uganda. These boys here are preparing themselves to undergo circumcision. So they're going through some types of ceremony right now for circumcision. All right. A relief from the 6th dynasty tomb of Ankh-Mahru at the Saqqara portrait, the circumcision of 2 puberty-aged youth, figure 2, a mortal priest squatted on his hands, hunched before the stands, youth whose hands are firmly held by an assistant. In the left hand is the priest holding the boy penis, and in the right hand it is what appears to be circular flints with which he is removing the produce, which he is moving the foreskin. So you can see him moving the foreskin. Now, we done seen this picture before, which this was, I don't know what they're doing now because I really don't watch a lot of videos, but I know when I used to be a video head, a certain group of people used to pull up this relief and say that our ancestors in North Africa was homosexuals when they looked at this thing. And again, this is priests that are, and you have a priest and someone assisting the priest to circumcise circumcising the young adult as he's being circumcised. Some African cultures, you're being circumcised at when you're born. Some is when you're a teenager, and some is in adulthood. Some cultures it varies. It varies. You don't have to be a certain age to be circumcised in African culture. Okay, I talked about now in this relief again. This is the oldest relief. Again, I said this is, you can go and do your own research and you can date the 6th dynasty. You can date the Nasut Ankh-Mahru in Saqqara. We know that a plethora of pyramids were built in Saqqara. So you can go do your own research, get your own dating down, and see why I said that the circumcision is a old ceremony that is older than any Christianity religion, any Judaism religion, any Islamic religion. Is older than Jesus. It's older than the Prophet Muhammad. It's older than any Israelite culture. So go do your research on that. But this is a relief from out of the Nasut Biti Ankh-Mahru temple in the 6th dynasty. Now I talked about the woman being circumcised as well. We always know about the male being circumcised, but I'm going to show you that the women were circumcised and what they did when the woman was what was circumcised on the woman, what was taken from the woman. I talked about women getting circumcised, a slide back, and it is 4 types of circumcision, which there are 4 types of circumcision. Some cultures deal with the first 3 types, some deal with all four types. Type 1 is usually the removal of the clitoris and the clitoris hood. I was finna say something, I couldn't even say it. But again, type 1 is usually a removal of the clitoris and the clitoris hood. Type 2 is the removal of the clitoris and the labio minora. Don't ask me what that is, because I don't know what that is. You women might know what that is. I didn't go any further to do any further research for. Is that I just wanted to bring out what the women was actually getting what was the circumcision with the women, because we always talk about the men. We know the man foreskin is being cut off, his fat is off the penis, but we don't know, most don't know about the circumcision that's dealing with the woman. Type 3, involving the removal of all or parts of the labio minora of the majora, and is usually the clitoris with wounded structures. A small hole is left with the patches of urine and menstrual blood, and the wound is reopened for intercourse as a childbirth. Type 1, type 2, type 3 are performed 85% of causes. Type 3 is most common procedure in Djibouti, Somalia, Sudan, and parts of Ethiopia, and Mali. So type 3 is the most popular in those regions of Africa. Type 4 is a malicious procedure at an external genitalia. For example, symbolic piercing of the clitoris and labial carcerations of the clitoris, and is cutting into the vaginal and widening it open. Some doesn't deal with as far as the removal of the clitoris hood, or the removal of the clitoris and the labial manera, the removal of the labial manera, the majorial, and the clitoris. Some does piercing. Some traditions deal with what they call scarification. They have a scarification rite, which I didn't go through. I'm not going through the scarification rite. But in one of the traditions that I practice, Ifa, they have a rite that deals with scarification. You also have some African cultures that deal with scarification. They also deal with tattooing, which we also seen, which was one of you seen the little girl in the video. She was going through one of her rites of passage as adulthood, where she was being taught to be, taught to be courageous as well, as brave. Being tattooed on her face, and those tattoos mean certain things. And if she didn't finish, then she wouldn't move on into the adulthood, and she would have to wait a certain time before she able to complete and become an adult in her society. You also have the ones that deal with piercing, and this is type 4, where it deals with the piercing. We have those things that are going on today. Our women around here now is doing the same thing for is piercing. You got the lips pierced, you got the upper eye pierced, you got your nose pierced, you got the inside of your ear pierced. Inside of your nose pierced. You got your eyes pierced, you got your top ears pierced. So there's things that we're still doing today. So that was this type 4, just dealing with the piercing. Marriage, the rites of marriage. Now this is an important rites of passage as well, a marriage ceremony. I'm gonna give you the pros, and then I'm gonna give you the cons as far as what we deal with as far as we adapting to the Western society's standards of what marriage is. Because when we deal with marriage, and I know most people say, when I say this, marriage does not specifically deal with love. I'm gonna say that again. Marriage does not specifically deal with love, because people fall in love quick and they fall right out of love quick. This is why we have an outstanding rate in our community as broken families. Males are not staying in a household, or they're not staying with a certain, they're not staying with a certain woman. You know, they're not being committed to this certain woman because they're not being groomed. They're not going through these rites of passage. And these rites of passage are nothing but stages of development where you have different elders in the community and family members are coming in and grooming you through these different stages, or these different stages of initiation. You know what I'm saying? Grooming you up to be, you know, in these stages. So the rites of marriage represents not only joining of two families and even a community, it also represents joining of the two missions of the new couple. This means, I'm trying to find my little mouse thing, but this means that in addition performing marriage rites from the coming together of a male and a female to procreate, perpetuate life, and joining families, it is also an institution to help the husband and wife to fulfill their missions and objectives in life, ensuring that they work together toward the same end. A very high value is placed on marriage in African societies, and it's because the focus is on collective. It is not uncommon that full social standings and the adults can only achieve by marriage. And in some society, marriage is not recognized fully until a wife gives birth. So again, when we're dealing with the marriage, we can go back to the adulthood. And I mean, to the rights of adulthood. I told you that when they take the women and the children away, they're teaching the children, the boys, how to be men. They are teaching the women how to be women. They're teaching a woman what a woman is and what a man is. So you won't get confused where a man is laying down with a man and a woman is laying down with a woman, because you have been distracted from your society and you have been groomed what a man and a woman is, how a man is supposed to treat a woman and how a woman is supposed to treat a man. This is the stage before the circumcision stage. These are different stages of grooming us through life. So I just want to throw that in there. Now, this here on the right hand is a school. School turned girls into wife in South Africa. They also have schools where they are properly educating the girls about sex at an early age, about and going through these rites of passage as far as the marriage and going through the schools and going through the adulthood. When you subtract the women away, they are teaching the women that you can't have sex or you can't be penetrated and have birth without being married first. This is one of the sacred rites of being married and perpetuating or bringing life on the planet through a male and a female. So they are teaching them in school about sex and about being a wife at an early age. So this is why you will see that most of the individuals, they are still married. We've not being taught these things in what I call what is called in the Western world, in Western society, or Western standards. This is, again, is why we have an outrageous rate of people being divorced in our community, and kids at an outstanding rate at the age of 10, 11, 12 having babies and not being married. Okay, girls will many times go to school where women teach them what is involved in marriage. And in some ethnic groups even learn secret codes and languages so that they can communicate with other married women. When a man is circumcised, he still has a whole penis left, minus the little skin. A woman mutilation of her parts or coats are completely hardly the same. That's true. I agree with you saying that, Lisa. That's why a lot of it was out banned and they went to doing other different forms, because that same thing that I got from where I gave you the types, I meant to put on there the downfall of the women being mutilated and being circumcised, and why most African cultures stopped practicing that, because it was very unhealthy. I should have put that in the slide. Too. But I'll leave the link, because I'll show you the link, because when I get through, I'll show my sources and I'll show you the link, and you can go on the link and you can see the types that I gave: the type 1, type 2, type 3, and type 4. And then you can see the unhealthy causes of a woman being circumcised. So I'll make sure I point that out at the end of the thing. Okay, weddings can in Wolof people, and even a time where elders in the village gathers with brides and give advice and gifts. Weddings can be very elaborate, involving feasts and dancings for days within the community. They can be very simple, or they can be performed in a huge marriage ceremony involving many different couples. Marriage is the most serious affair. Young men, women are thoroughly prepared for married life. Young men, women are taught about responsibility and married life and educated about sex and procreation. Again, these things are done at an early age. This is the cause of the rites, so that there won't be an outstanding birthright of babies having kids and not married, or not even understanding sex and understanding their worth, and waiting until they get married before they have kids, and also understanding that it is unnatural and that you go against nature. You go against nature if you don't. You go against nature, because the most important thing is for you to procreate yourself. You can't procreate yourself laying down with the same sex as you, far as a male with a male and a female with a male. So they are being taught that it's in the adult rites of adult passage. So there won't be no confusion at all of what's going on. And then when a woman get married, a man can commit and know what a man is supposed to do and a woman is supposed to do, and so forth. Now, unfortunately, a vast number of African marriages in Western culture fails due to short-sightedness of absence of mutual goals. When I mention Western culture, I know if most people don't know what I mean by Western culture. We know that our perspective on life over here in North America is not our perspective and our way of life. We celebrate their holidays. We have their names. We speak their languages. We go to their schools. We are governed up under their government and their policies. Their outlook on life is different than our outlook on life. We round them with talks proper because they say that you have to talk proper, and you can't talk with ebonics, you can't talk with slang. They tell you your hair is nappy, so our women is taking their natural hair that the supreme force giving them, and they take their natural hair and put relaxer in it to slip it down to look just like the white woman with the straight hair. So this is the standard. Wearing, you have to wear suits when you go in. Your hair have to be cut, so you have to compromise yourself. If you got kinky hair, you wear a dress. So I'm just throwing out different things, so we compromise ourselves. So the Western standards. So we indulge into the Western standards, and we have to get back into our standards, understand who we are, so we can get back to the high standard that our ancestors had for us. So unfortunately, vast numbers of African marriages in Western culture fails due to the short sightings of absence of mutual goals. Being based family on love, falling in love. And again, as I spoke earlier, we think, okay, being married is about falling in love. It basically, that's the smallest part of being married. It's falling in love, because we know all the time we fall in love and we fall out of love. You know what I'm saying? We lust. You know what I'm saying? We lust over a person, and once we through lusting over the person, we throw that person away. So, and we think that this is what the basic structure of being in a relationship with a man and a woman and being married is falling in love. Lack on focus of building a family. So we're a lack of focus on building a family or in a result of the community, thereby entering a relationship in an unbalanced state. When a marriage rite is performed in African society, it does not emphasize looks, because we know man, she's a dime, she's a bad bitch, she this. So we're always lusting after the ones with looks. It doesn't emphasize lust. I talked about lust a while ago as a primary motivation for marriage, because we know these things, the looks, the woman, she may gain weight, the man may gain weight. We don't want them no more because they look so way. We lust over this person, and once we copulate with this person, how many times we fall out of favor of sleeping with the man or the woman, so we end the relationship, we end the marriage. Primary motivation for marriage, but the nation building and community. In a tradition of African society, marriage is a right which is celebrated, respected, and held to a high esteem. It is not held to a high esteem over here in North America due to us being influenced and being indoctrinated by Western culture or European culture or the Yurupu culture or the Wangzugu culture. So in our culture, most of the time, your wife is selected or your husband is selected for you. And it's due to the purpose of what your destiny and your purpose is, and what his destiny and his purpose is, and y'all coming together and making and building a family and building or furthering the results in your own community. Now here's the other different varieties of what the performance of wedding ceremonies and stuff, dealing with other different African culture, other African countries and nations and clans. Among the Wudubu people in Nigeria, Cameroon, Central Africa, the Republic of Chad, Nigeria, women select their preference husbands and lovers. The tribe is popular for the traditional 7-day festival known as Yiki, where men decorate themselves and dance in hopes to attract the attention of the potential mate. The Waduba women are allowed to marry more than one husband. You notice in most African cultures, not even in just African cultures, just dealing with the religious culture, those that deal with Judaism, those that deal with Christianity, those would deal with Islam. You know that your books talks about polygamy. You know, talks about polygamy. One of King James in the Bible, what did it say? He had 300 wives and 700 concubines. We know that these different individuals in these different cultures have plethoras of wives. And that's a whole nother topic when we dealing with polygamy. And I don't think we ready for that over here. But anyway, Among the Sumera people in Ethiopia, marriage is usually arranged after a stick fight contest in which young men thrashes each other's mercilessly with sticks, readiness to become a husband. Girls who are ready to get married sit around and watch their potential mate cans one another into submission. So that is another form of culture that they're going through. I'm just giving you different varieties of culture, what they look for, or how they select their mates. Each girl select her favorite fighter in a contest and send him indirect messages through friends and relatives to express her interest. Women who are beautiful, hardworking, cheerful, and often the first selects a wife. In most African communities, wedding ceremonies involving feasting, animal sacrificing, dancing, and blessing. Most of that we still do today, even though we go through the European rituals when we do that fathers getting married. Among the Yoruba people, for instance, the oldest woman in attendance will spray gin, which is closely associated with the ancestors, on a couple of others related to the blessing of the new union. Hold on one second, y'all. Just a little bit. Get you a little bit on the plate. That's it. Among the Bima people in Central Africa, a woman gets married and given a clay pot by her father, sister, because the main purpose of marriage is procreation, and that is the clay pot stands for the womb. So the clay pot is a representation of the woman's womb. This is expected to be filled as blessed with many pregnancies. So again, marriage is about procreating. Similar rituals can be observed among the Shaian people of Zimbabwe, when the paternal aunt hands a clay pot full of water to the bride to bless her with a fertile marriage. Water emulates association with fertility. We know that as well. It talks about the pot here as symbolizing the womb. And we know a woman, I know when we inside the triple darkness of the woman's womb, we are enhusked in water, because we know when a woman gets ready to have a child, what happens? Her what breaks? Her water breaks. All right, rites of the eldership. The rites of the eldership is the fourth major initiation rite, and it is an important component in the initiation system, because it is the elders who represents tradition and wisdom of the past. In African culture, there is fundamental distinctions that has to be made between elders and older persons. And we talk about this a lot. We talk about the elders and everybody, and I say this, and we say this a lot. You have elders and you have elders. Just because you are older than me does not make you my elder. I'm going to say that again. Just because you are older than me does not make you my elder. That makes you my older and not my elder, according to what you're doing. So let's get into that. An older person has simply lived a longer life than most people, but it is not considered one who deserves high praise and respect. Because again, when I start my PowerPoints, I always give honor to the ancestors. I always say, cool, which means I honor or I praise the ancestors, or you hear me say Majube Iba Igungun Kiki Agungun, which means I pay homage to the ancestors, I praise or I give reverence to the ancestors. So I'm always praising those that are ancestors. So, and ancestors and elders go hand in hand, and we'll get into that. That's right, so older does not equal elders. So again, an older person has simply lived a longer life than most people, but is not considered one who deserves high praise and respect. This is because the older person's life has not been a positive example for the community. And I know a lot of people in my community that are older than me does not have a positive impact or a positive example on the kids in our community. So they wouldn't be considered elders to me. They will be considered elders. And I don't have to respect them due to them not living the potential that they're supposed to be doing by setting a positive example for the youth and other individuals in our community. An older person could be a thief or a drunkard, an evil person, or could be someone who never married and had children. And thus the example would certainly prevent a person from being considered and respected elder. An elder, let's get into an elder. On the other hand, is someone who is giving the highest status in African culture because he has lived a life purpose. And there is nothing more respected than a living, purposeful life. The life of an elder is centered in the best traditions of the community, and someone who has gone through all of the previous rites and is living a model for the other groups in the societies to emulate. An elder gives the highest status of along with new infants because these two groups represents the closest links in the wisdom of the spiritual world. And we know, with age comes wisdom. And going back to the rites of adulthood, which is the second rites, we know that adulthood rite, you go through certain rites. Again, what I said, the child from the age of 12 and 13 becomes an adult at an early age. So he's being taught how to be an adult because he goes through these certain rites, these initiatory systems for so many days, and he's being taught certain things, and he's being groomed before he comes an adult. He has to go through certain things before they deem him or they deem her to be an adult. And in adulthood, you go through different stages. From 13 to 14, you go through certain things and you become an adult. And then you go through another stage at the age of 30 and you become a certain type of adult. And then at the age of 50, then you become a senior adult. Then you become a senior, a senior elder at the age of 50. Then you become an elder. By the time you get an old age, you have been going through these stages of being groomed, so you will know exactly what to do, what an elder is, what your purpose is, how you supposed to conduct yourself, how you supposed to treat your neighbor, how you supposed to do things for the community, how well and studied you supposed to be versed in certain things. All right. The rites of ancestorship and death. The final of initiation rites concerns the soul passing into a continuous phase of an existence, the spirit world, and the extension of the elder distinctions, because the status that a person has in life is the same status that they bring with him when they pass on. Again, I'm going to say that again. The elder distinction, because the status that the person has in life is the same status that they bring with them when they pass on. And we talked about that a while ago, forward as an elder and forward as what this right as being an ancestor as you pass on as Yoruba, we say they go on into the Egungun. They go into the ancestral realm. And the status that you had for we dealing with the elders and we dealing with the oldest. So if you are older, you wouldn't hear me reference or respect you for this. I do pouring libations. We know libations is a part of African traditions. We know that the altar, the Oja Ogun, which is the face of the ancestors of the altar, which is a interface between us and our ancestors. So we're having these shrines, we offer certain things to our ancestors, the one that we respected. So we may ask our ancestors for guidance, those that have went into the Egungun, those that went into the ancestral realm, because we know most African spiritual tradition, specifically the ones that I deal with, and I know about the Akan, the Voodoo, Yoruba, and in Kemet, that just because even when you deal with the different types of religions, the same thing. Your spirit or your flesh goes back into the ground. Your spirit goes back from whence it came. You know what I'm saying? It goes back into the visible realm and the culture that I practice called the Ikole Oran, which is the visible realm, or you could call it the heavens or whatever you want to call it. And we know that we say if things happen, oh, my grandmother was there with us. We speak, we talk to our grandmothers, we go to their grave sites, we talk to them, we ask them for guidance, we ask them for encouragement, etc., etc. So those people that you are asking for, you got these people on your wall, which is also a part of ancestor veneration of reference. If you have your grandmother, your grandfather, your mother, your brother, your sister pictures on your wall, and they have passed, but you still have their pictures on their wall. You still speak to them from time to time. You name your kids after them, you know, so their name's still on. Certain things that go on in their community, they're bringing certain things that they have been doing in the community as far as their works. You're continuing their works in the community. You may take over their business so their business won't fall, and continue to keep their business thriving, etc., etc. These are the people that you respect. But the elders, you would respect them, and those that they deem that you would deem wouldn't be worthy, those that did not set a positive example in the community for the youth, those that may be thieves, crooks, murderers, sodomists, pedophiles, etc., etc. We know we wouldn't be calling on them for help. We know we wouldn't be respecting them in the highest form. So those people, when you die, what you did here will go on with you into go on with you into the spiritual realm or the invisible realm or the heavens or whatever you want to call it. In African society, there is little distinction between the sacred and the secular. The spirit part, the spirit is a part of all, and therefore, when a person dies, it is believed that communication and ties with the living continues, because African philosophy from one culture to another agrees that the spirit of the deceased is still with the living, communicating. Distinctions must be made in status and variations of spirits, and therefore a distinction made in the status of the living. We know most people that practice African spirituality, we believe that once the person leaves, the body may be gone, but the spirit is still here. Because again, I like to make this analogy. The person that you look in the mirror, is the person that you look in the mirror you, or the person inside? Is the person that you look in your true self, or the person inside of you is the true self? And again, I like to make an analogy dealing with, if you go outside the planet, because we are out of space. I don't know why people say when you go out of space, when the planet Earth is in space. So when we go outside of the planet, right, we have to have on a certain thing in order to survive outside of this planet. So we put an astronaut suit on. So is the suit the astronaut, or the or the person inside the suit the astronaut? I'm just pausing for a minute to see if somebody gonna answer that, or do you understand or following what I'm saying? Yes, no, maybe so. I know this thing here a little bit slow though on my other device. I guess everybody understand. I'm kind of late, lost. Peace. I can't even pronounce your name. I'm not gonna even try to pronounce it. Well, peace. Okay, you got it, Cynic. Okay. Okay, priest, great. Okay, you get it. Okay. Peace to you, sacred aspirant Patrice Haru. Helamin. I might be pronouncing your last name wrong. Peace. Okay. So we see a notable difference between an old person who dies and is seen as nothing more than a dead relative, without honor, and will not be remembered as a great person, nor is someone who should be followed or emulated. A respected elder who passes and is reverent, and a respected ancestor gives the highest honor. This group of ancestors wields great power and often call upon in the matters. And I'll just say a little something that's dealing with the ancestry realm. And most people that deal, and I'm speaking with the spiritual systems that I know of, and two specifically that I practice, and that is the Marrige culture in Kemet, and the spiritual system that's out of southwestern Nigeria, which is called Ifa by the Yoruba people, which is similar to the Akan, which I know about the system in Akan, which I just did a PowerPoint on that. If you want to go back and look at that, just go on my page and just scroll down so you see the Akan PowerPoint. I don't know what the title of it is, and the fun people in Benin, which is practice voodoo, and we believe in reincarnation, and we believe in reincarnation through the blood, through the family that you come through. So I want, and I explained this a little bit on one of the my PowerPoints dealing with the introduction of Yoruba. I think, well, you come back through the bloodline of the family that I wouldn't come through the bloodline of Senet Monica. Senet Monica wouldn't be reincarnated through my bloodline. You only reincarnated through your family bloodline, and you're not reincarnated as a rock. You're not reincarnated as a frog. You come back as a corporal being through the bloodline of your family. And again, we deal with destiny and purpose. We all have a purpose that we have to fulfill. We are all here on a mission. We are spiritual beings living a human experience. We come on a mission. So we come here to fulfill our destiny. Some of us do not feel our destiny, so we are reincarnated back through our bloodline with what we learn, and then until we get it right. Some dealing with what I practice, a practitioner of Ifa, you can ascend to the level of an Orisha if you get it right here, which many don't get it right here when you are manifested into the physical, physical realm. So you're being reincarnated back until you get it right. And also, it is things that when you're being reincarnated or when you die, you're taking messages back to the Agun. You're taking messages back to the Agungun, the ancestors, and you're telling the ancestors what is going on with their children that is still left here in the physical world, and et cetera, et cetera. So when you go back to the rites of birth, we believe that you are being reincarnated back, and once you're being reincarnated, because when I say I am my ancestor, I am my ancestors, I am my daddy, I am my great-great-grandfather, I am my grandmother, I am my great-great-grandmother, I am my great-great-great-great-great-great-grandmother. If you understand bloodlines and you understand DNA, we are our ancestors. So we come back and reincarnated, and we bring messages back. The child with the rites of passage, and we believe that they are bringing messages back from the spiritual realm or from the Agungun. Now, this is my summary. This is a small summary. Now, and this is my summary. I think if we start to implement our rites of passages that we forgot via the slave trade, and this is the reason why we're not practicing our traditions and don't understand our cultures either anymore, because of the slave trade. We know that we have been enslaved for almost 500 years, being brought from West Africa into the Caribbean, from the Caribbeans into South America, and from South America into North America. So we know we have been enslaved for 400 some years up under the Portuguese, the Spaniard, the Dutch, the French, the British, but even before, prior to them, we know we have been enslaved for 1,200 years up under the Arab. We was enslaved up under Arab before we was enslaved up under the Yoruba or the Wanzugu or the European before we was enslaved. So we've been enslaved for at least 17 or 1,800 years. So going through these process of being indulged in other people's culture and converted into other people's culture and being indoctrinated by their culture and their way of life and their perspective, we begin to lose who we are and our traditions on what we have. Yes, the Arabs, look up the Arab slave trade or the Barbacoa slave trade, and you can see that we was enslaved up under the Arabs first. And then in the 1400s, you will see where the Portuguese began to push on the Iberian Peninsula. They began to push who they call the Moors today, which the Moors are nothing but Berbers, Arabs, and enslaved Africans who have converted into Islam, who call themselves Moors today. they pushed those individuals out, and the religion of Islam was not the prominent religion. Christianity became the prominent religion at that time. Catholicism, when you study Queen Isabella and Queen Ferdinand. But we lost these things via the slave trade. But let me go back. I kind of got off track. I think if we start to implement our rites of passage that we forgot via the slave trade back into the homes, communities, cities, states, we could have long-lasting marriages, less people bearing kids without wedlock, more people knowing their gifts and purpose in life and sharing it, more men and not men still being boys, more elders, less olders, more women being women and not describing themselves as queens and not as B's and H's. Because I'm tired of hearing women describing themselves as B's and H's when I'm around, or I'm walking around, I'm somewhere and they're communicating with each other. More men describing themselves as kings and I forgot to put that, and less of describing themselves as niggas. I don't care how you put it, niggas, nigga, the same thing. We know that word have a negative connotation, and we know our oppressor gave us this name. More respect for our communities and being better neighbors, more reference and praising to those who came before us, such as our ancestors. I'm going to say that again, more reverence of praising to those who came before us, such as our ancestors, because a lot of us is spitting in our ancestors' faces. We spit in our ancestors' faces. When we have people to come to us and we try to educate, or we try to show you the way, or show you things about your own culture and your own tradition and the things that your ancestors left behind, you would try to demonize it because your oppressor told you that these things was evil, or your oppressor told you that your ancestors didn't do these types of things. They was buffoons. They was running around Africa with bones in their nose. They was uncivilized, which is all unfact, and it has all been proven. Such as our ancestors who have transitioned into the invisible or the spiritual realm. I can keep going, but y'all get the picture. What y'all do, y'all get the picture, and I can keep going on. So these stages of life, or these rites of passages that our ancestors left behind, that we went through, it shaped and molded you through these certain ages, so we could have better families, we can have better communities, stable communities, wise people in the communities, great counselors in the community, great wives in the community, great sons in the community, great daughters in the community, great husbands in the community, great grandmothers in the community, great grandmothers in the community. These are things that I think that we need to get back to. Burial rite. This is the last thing. The burial rite goes hand in hand with the ancestorship and death. We know after death is burial. This disparity in belief highlights the diverse ways in which different African communities handle the deceased. So these are just different ways how they handle deceased in different cultures. I think I just put 3. Among the Yoruba people in Nigeria, the dead are buried within the hoard of items including food, clothing, and fire. We also see this in another culture that I also practice in North Africa, what we call Kemet. And we see the same thing. We see in different stations and different reliefs in the temples, we see that they are honoring their ancestors and are burying their ancestors with food and clothing and fire. Other tribes in Nigeria bury their dead alongside spears, shears, pans, pots, and ensuring they have all they need in the afterlife. In South Africa, especially, rituals are performed at the deceased person's homes before burial. All pictures are turned to faces to the walls while all mirroring. Windows reflect surfaces or covering to ensure the dead can't view them. This is in South Africa. Huti, closer relatives of a newly deceased person may not engage in work or sexual intercourse during the period of mourning. When mourning is over, the family organized a ritual feast of all activities resuming normally. In that culture, you know, they deal with when they're mourning their loved ones who have passed and went into the ancestral realm. You know, they don't have sexual intercourse during the times of mourning, and they have feasts, ritual feasts, where they're offering food to the ancestors, those who have passed and are gone on. I forgot to put the Akan on here. Those that looked at my presentation last week with the Akan, we know when I talked about the Adrika symbols, you know, the Adrika were, those are symbols or messages that they wore at one time during the funerals. And they say that these Adrika symbols, and I gave you some of the meanings of the Adrika symbol. There's hundreds of Adrika symbols. I gave you maybe 12 or 15 meanings of the Adrika symbol, but those was messages to get to the ancestors for them to transition, to have a proper transition into the ancestral realm. The person's bed is also removed from the bedroom at night, and the vow is held in the household by relatives as friends. All right. And also doing the burial ceremonies is something that in all African cultures that we do. With poor libations. I don't care. Most African traditions, especially the ones again that I know about for is the Vudam, the Ifa, the people in the Khan and Kemet, they deal with libations. So this is me here pouring libations out, which I do on a regular basis, where I pour ancestors out to my blood relatives, as well as I pour libations out to what we call popular ancestors, those that may not be my blood relatives, but those who I consider to be great men, those who I consider to be great women, far as such as Sir John of Truth, Rosa Parks, Harriet Tubman, Marcus, the Messiah, the Honorable Messiah, Marcus Garvey, Malcolm X, and I can just keep going on, pouring libations out to them. So family also doing a burial rite, libations, and the offering of foods to the ancestral spirits and rituals or rites performed to express the esteem and the feeling hospitality that the people hold for their ancestors. The act reflects a firm belief that African generally have in a extent of the unbroken relationship that exists between the living and the dead. They hate the word so much, it's forbidden in my house. What's forbidden? Say that. What, the word libation, or what's forbidden? Okay, here is my sources. Here at each PowerPoint, at the end of each PowerPoint, I want to give my sources. I always want to give my sources. This is where I collected all the data for my PowerPoint. African Folklores and Encyclopedia by Philip M. Peaks and Kiswe Yankee. Encyclopedia of African Religion by Mulufe Kente Ashante. Also information from African Initiation Rites websites, Rites of Passages by the African Holocaust website, which is also a great website. I got this and that. This is where I got this the information about when we was talking about the circumcision rites, and we was talking about also in African culture where they deal with the women being circumcised, and then after a while they stopped with the circumcising the women and went to alternate doing other things as far as piercing. When I gave you type 1, type 2, type 3, and type 4. www.sciencedirect.com. Science is an article. It's a great article, by the way, and it's not too long. Maybe like 2 or 3 page article, and this is where I got the type 1, type 2, type 3, type 4, and it also gives why they stopped and the causes, the unhealthy causes of them being circumcised. So that is www.sciencedirect.com. It's a science article. Here's another one where I talked about them teaching the kids, they going to school on being taught how to be wise. They taught about sex at a younger age. They talk about keeping their virginity until they're getting married. This is another great article I got information out from. And this article here, I don't even know what was on dealing with this article here, Nacroom.org. Oh, this is also was dealing with, I just put a link information there, but you can go, this is an article, and it's a PDF. And it's a PDF dealing with the 6th dynasty when I gave you the temple relief of Ankh-Mahor, which is a king in the 6th dynasty. And it gives you, this is one of the oldest release dealing with circumcision. When I made my point in saying that it was older than any Israelite culture, older than Judaism, Christianity, Islam, that's where I got some of the information from off of that PDF as well. So these are the plethora of sources that I have. If anybody don't got any questions, I'm gonna go ahead and get up off here. Anybody got any questions before I get off here? We are hot too. Well, all right. Well, I appreciate y'all every time for coming in and joining the PowerPoint, and y'all could be doing something else with y'all time, but I appreciate y'all for tuning in and walking through this information with me. And on that note, I want to say Shem Imhotep. I want to say, hold on. Sinette Sophie, yes, I can. I've been to Natchez already. Well, we can go to Natchez if you want me to take you to Natchez. I done been to Natchez. I done been to the museum down there and a couple other places down there already. But just hit me up. But on that note, appreciate it seeing Sean. Oh, I'm gonna have to get your name right too. Oh, okay. Well, we can do that. We can go to Natchez and pour libations there. But appreciate it seeing Sean. And again, appreciate everybody. And on that note, Shem Imhotep, Dua Dua Wu Abet, which means thank you very much, family. Dua to you too, Dua Senate Imiket. And again, Dua Dua Wu Aku to the ancestors. To the Aku. I'm out.